I heard them saying, Diane, wake up. Diane, wake up. And I thought, that's so weird. We have the same first name. And a few minutes later, I hear them saying, Dianne Sherman, wake up. Dianne Sherman, wake up. And I said, wait a minute, that's me. My God, did they do the wrong surgery? Do they have the wrong patient? That's me. And I'm waving, nobody's responding. And I'm thinking, well, they're busy. They're trying to, save her life. And as I'm thinking that, the next thing I know is I'm standing at the foot of her bed, looking up at her while they're working on her. And I could see it was me.
I'm here today with Dianne Sherman. In 1981, Diane was gifted the experience of dying and coming back. It was the tipping point in having a life worth living or not. Through her struggles to understand her near-death experience and the changes it created in her, she was able to find her purpose, her passion, and her joy. Her mantra nowadays is, I needed to die to get a life. It was gorgeous. I've never been so happy. Diane, that is a beautiful mantra. I am just excited to have you here and hear about your story. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you for having me, Tia. I'm delighted to be here.
So in 1981, you experienced a very traumatic event where it caused you to die. Take me back. What happened?
Well, I went in for a very simple surgery, which was arthroscopy on my left knee. I had had an accident 10 years earlier, and I waited 10 years to have the arthroscopy. And at that time, it was pretty straightforward and simple surgery. So I had no concerns at all about having it. The reason I waited is I didn't want to have the big patella surgery where they have to open up the whole knee. Anyway, the morning of the surgery, I was waiting on a gurney in the hallway, and I was feeling very cold. I was racked with like chills or spasms of some kind. And I guess in looking back, it was sort of a foretelling of what was coming. And a very kind nurse came up to me and she said, I can see you're shivering. Would you like a heated blanket? And I said, oh, I'd love that, because I didn't know they had those available. I said, I would really love that. And she brought it to me, and it seemed to calm my body down quite a bit. So by the time I got into the surgical suite, they put another warmed blanket on me. And at that point, I went out, and it was before I'd had the anesthesia. I'd had a pre-op shot, but I totally went out. And the first thing I remembered was hearing this commotion going on next to me, in the bed next to me. I'm in recovery. And I don't want to look over because I don't want to get involved in what's happening over there. I'm dealing with where I am and, the fogginess of coming out of anesthesia and all of that. And the information next to me just kept getting louder. And so I turned around and took, just a squint at what was happening. And they were working on this person. There were 3 or 4 people working on this person next to me. And I heard them saying, Diane, wake up. Diane, wake up. And I thought, that's so weird. We have the same first name. And a few minutes later, I hear them saying, Dianne Sherman, wake up. Dianne Sherman, wake up. And I said, wait a minute, that's me. My God, did they do the wrong surgery? Do they have the wrong patient? That's me. And I'm waving, nobody's responding. And I'm thinking, well, they're busy. They're trying to, save her life. And as I'm thinking that, the next thing I know is I'm standing at the foot of her bed, looking up at her while they're working on her. And I could see it was me. And I could look down and see I was still here. So I thought. And looking up at her, I had no sense of worry or concern. It was almost as if somebody said, pass the salt. And that was kind of odd for me. And the next thing I knew, I was pulled up to the corner of the room in the ceiling. And I'm now overlooking what's going on below me. And I'm not interested. It's like she has nothing to do with me. I have no connection to her. And the next thing I knew, I was being pulled out of the room and then pushed in another direction towards this blackness. Now, for me as a kid, I was terrified of the dark because I needed to be able to see what was coming at me as a kid. There was a lot of trauma. And so being in the dark was really, it was disempowering for me completely. So I thought to myself, as I'm being pushed into this blackness that's everything, is if I can just see one tiny glimmer of light, I know I'm going to be okay. Because part of it was about being blind or blinded as a kid. So if I could see a little tiny bit of light, I would know all was going to be okay. And as I'm moving into this blackness, this little tiny glimmer of light shows itself to me, and I'm fixated on it. It's like I have to hold on to that, because if I can hold on to that, I'm going to be okay. And as I'm looking at it and watching it and focused on it, hyper focused on it, it's getting bigger and bigger around me and in front of me. And now all around me is this light. And it's kind of like being in the clouds in a way. It's diaphanous. And it has all of these almost colors of the rainbow in the whiteness of it. It's a color we've never seen. There's no terminology for it. It has a luminescence. It just has its own unique divine quality. It's the only way I can say it. And as it's surrounding me, I can feel this sense of safety, all rightness, love, pardon me. And I'm now floating through it. And as I say that, every time I say it, it kind of makes me chuckle, because I was aware that I was floating, and it was kind of like, that's so odd. I'm floating through this. And as I'm floating through it, there are 2 rows of monks in front of me, monks with hoods up, brown robes. And as you and I were talking earlier, there's something very analogous in the monks for me, because I think all NDEers have an experience that has something to do with their life that they know, that makes it feel comfortable. And the monks were always a safe place for me in my religious upbringing, Catholic school. Priests were kind of scary, but the monks were always kind of sweet and benign. And their habits, I guess you'd call them, like nuns, were not so jarring. And so I am now floating through these 2 rows of monks. And as I get to the one in front, he steps forward and he speaks to me. And when I say speak, there was no auditory sound, but I could hear him inside of myself. And it felt very natural. It was like, well, that's how we always talk. So there was a connection to what was before in another time and space to what is now. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he said, "You cannot stay. You must go back." Now I am feeling cherished in a way I have never experienced in my life. I feel like I've finally come home, not only to myself, but to the home I had always yearned for. I'm feeling unconditional love. I'm feeling total acknowledgement and acceptance. And he's saying, "You cannot stay. It's not your time. You must go back." And I'm thinking to myself, I worked so hard to get here. I waited so long to get here. I was in my 30s. I had been married. I had a child. She was 6 years old. And even in my marriage, I was divorced at the time of this incident. And none of that made me feel the way this moment in time and space made me feel. I did not want to give it up. And I said so. We kind of battled about it. I said, "You cannot send me back." And he said, but you have a child. You must go back. It's not your time. And I started thinking about my daughter, who was 6. Who would I have with her to love her? Both my parents were gone. My sister was not mentally stable enough to take care of her. My ex-husband was my ex-husband for a reason. And I was at a loss to know inside of myself the people that would give her the love and the care that I wanted her to have. And in the next moment, I was back in my body. And I don't know if I sent myself back or if they sent me back. I'll never know till I'm back on the other side. But I know I would have missed so much had I not come back to my daughter. And she's now 49. She was 6 years old at the time and I have grandchildren. So there's a lot there. When I awakened in my hospital room, the woman who was sharing the room with me had had arthroscopic surgery also, and she was in massive pain. And I was not having any. I wasn't on any medication except, in surgery. And my doctor said to me, he said, I've never seen anybody heal as fast as you have with this, when I saw him in the office for the first time. And I was up, they had me up walking that night, which at that time, that many years ago, they didn't do that. And I went home the next morning, and the other lady was in the hospital for several days. So it was a big experience, but I didn't realize what had happened to me until I went out with my sister. We went to dinner a week or so after getting home from the hospital. And when I walked into the restaurant, I knew, comfortable and all of that, I could hear everybody's story. I could feel their pain. I could hear the chaos and the fear in the whole room. And I thought, I must be becoming psychotic. I'm hearing voices. I'm feeling these feelings. This is just overwhelming and outrageous. And I had nobody to go talk to about it, because in 1981, if I'd gone to my priest, he would have said, you're a heretic, hearing voices. If I'd gone to the doctor, he would have thought I was losing my mind. So I luckily was led by spirit to people who were spiritual, who could talk me off the ledge and help me understand what I was experiencing and why. And that was my saving grace, is getting to the right people. Today, there's so much support for people who have near-death experiences. In my time, there was not. Raymond Moody's book was, I think, the only book that was out, and it had only been out like 2 years. So nobody talked about near-death. And my doctor didn't talk to me about, losing me in recovery. So I flatlined in recovery. The hospitals didn't talk about things like that. So it was all, is this a fabrication in my mind? Have I lost my mind? What's going on? And then as I started experiencing the gifts of clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance, I realized something major had happened with me. And I spent many years, trying to decipher it and trying to hone the gifts that were given to me, and to be able to be in the world again, having been on the other side, where it is so beautiful, so loving, so perfect in every way. There's no struggle, there's nothing that's a challenge on the other side. And coming back into human form is hard, and coming back into hearing the monkey mind and all of that is devastating when you're in a place of stillness and peace and love. So I had to learn to handle the new me and to figure out what it was all about and what to do with it. And, luckily I was gifted the support I needed. Not everybody gets that. And I have learned to work with the gifts, because one of the things I came back with is the ability to see beyond the facade of people. I see them in their essence, and I see them in their preciousness. And I try to convey that to them so that they can understand their own preciousness and own themselves, because it's all about learning to love ourselves. And if somebody can mirror for you who you really are, it's not such a big leap of faith to learn to embrace and love yourself. So that's part of the work that I do with people. And I have learned to help remove blocks and barriers to their lives and what they need to do, where they need to go, and just to reframe their whole experience in a better way. And I've worked with some wonderful healers and learned to be able to do some clearings. I do vibrational work as well. And it helps people feel better within themselves, because so much of their trauma can be removed through the work that I do. So I love working with clients. It's been the greatest gift that dying has given me, is finding my purpose of being supportive and nurturing for people. And because of the internet, and videos like yours, people see me on YouTube, since I don't really advertise. People see me on YouTube and they contact me for support. So I feel really blessed, especially at this stage of the game, to have clients all over the world and to be engaged in moving us all forward, because we're all in this together. Any healing that I have or they have, it adds to the pool of the everybody. And we all get a gift and we all get uplifted. So I just love being a part of that. And I wouldn't have known had I not died.
That is a blessing indeed, to be able to help others with your calling, your purpose in life, and to just find your purpose in life. Because I feel like a lot of people are struggling just to get there, just to figure out, what am I here for? And you found that, and it is helping people. I find that a lot of near-death experiencers come back with kind of a need or a calling to be in service to others. Did it happen? Do you feel like that started with your near-death experience?
Yes, I really do. Well, before my near death, I was at a crossroads. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I'd spent 17 years as a model, and I was getting to the age where it was time to move on for me as well as the work. And I really didn't know what to do. I had gone to church a week or so before I had my near death, begging and pleading with God, please show me, tell me, give me some idea. I don't know what to do. And as I had said earlier, my parents were gone, so I didn't have people to guide me moving forward. And I think there was a part of me that was kind of immature at the time. And I really needed some structure and some ideas of who I could really be. And this gave me that. It gave me my life. It's been a process and a path getting there. But oh man, has it been a wonderful ride.
Did you shift your views about life and death and who we really are, who you really are, after your experience?
Yes, it changed my idea about religion. I had been a Catholic my whole life, 12 years Catholic school. I was a devout kid. And I realized that so much of that is all based in fear. And so I moved away from that. So I moved away from religion to spirituality, because it's almost like, pardon me, religion is a pathway to spirituality, but it's not the answer. The answers have to come within us in our own connections with the universe, with God, with spirit, whatever you want to deem it. And that's what gives it we're all here in a free will state, but in religion, you're not treated like you're in a free will state. In spirituality, you're allowed to have your connection in the way that is analogous to you, that works for you, that speaks of who you are. And it's far more purposeful to me in our growth, in our evolution, because there's no dogma. You're having to rely on your internal knowingness. You have to get in concert with your intuition and heart and understand that they are the GPS. They are the thing that leads us. You know, we came in human form to experience emotions and feelings, and they're part of the guidance. You know, does it feel good? Yes, let's do it. If it doesn't feel good, let's go a different way. And it helps us to get out of our heads, our monkey minds. And that's a big part of what we need to do as we expand, is get out of the ego monkey mind. It's not our friend.
You came back with some gifts to help you help others. Did you notice those gifts right away, or did it kind of take some time for them to develop within you?
It took a little time for them to develop. I think I've always been intuitive, but my guides called it Clearsight. I was given Clearsight, which is all the clairs. And, you know, I was working with somebody before our call today, and she looked at me, and we were on Zoom, and she said, "How do you know that?" And I said, "Because I'm a conscious channel. I am online, and I have a direct link, and we can all do that. It's just, you know, it's like muscles. You have to work them. You have to, you know, practice. And I've been practicing this for almost 40 years. So I'm I'm a conscious channel. When I open up, the information's there, and I don't question it. I used to, you know, my daughter will tell a story about the two of us being in an elevator someplace, and I will get a hit of some kind and turn around to the person next to me or behind me and just give them the information, and they'll either cry or laugh because whatever I said to them would just like, you know, pop them. And she would be so furious. "Mom, why would you do that? It's so embarrassing. Who gives you the right? Why do you do that?" I could not do that because it's inside of me to do. And if I don't do it, it's like I'm stoving up all the channels in my body.
It's like an
So
energy kind of that's flowing through you that you have to let go.
I have to let it out. Yeah. And interestingly enough, growing up, you know, my father, who was old school, children are to be seen and not heard. And so my chakra was totally shut down. And the thing that I think I came into this world to do was to speak out loud. So that's what I've been doing, whether people like it or not. And it's none of my business how they respond. I know I'm here to give them that piece of information for their lives. What they do with it is totally up to them. My my desire is never to harm, it's always to help. It's always to support. So I trust that spirit is speaking through me, and that what I'm doing is, you know, healing for them.
Do you feel like you had this all in place maybe before you came to this life, that you had planned this all along?
I think I did. Yeah. You know, I've often said that trauma that we go through, and I had a lot of childhood trauma. Um, our traumas are our biggest gifts to the world because of how they shift and change and mold us, you know? And I wanted to be of service when I was a kid too. I knew that. And, you know, I often wondered if I had had a near death as a little kid, because I have a vision of drowning. I don't know if it's this lifetime or not. I remember seeing a movie about a little boy who drowned in a bus accident, and I got hysterical in the theater. And my daughter was sitting next to me. She was a teenager at the time. Like, "Mom, what is wrong with you?" You know, but it hit home. It was almost like I was there, kind of thing. So I think when you have any kind of NDE, STE, OBE, it changes you. It changes your perspective on everything. You know, I grew up in a fairly judgmental family, but after my near-death experience, I realized we are all one. We're all coming from the same place and going back to the same place. And everything I say and do affects everybody else. So my job is to be the best version of myself I can muster. Some days I do it better than others, but I'm cognizant of it. And that's because of my near death. And I know that everybody's really doing the best they know how to do with the tools they've got. So my job is not to judge them. And I realize that the only reason we judge other people is because we are judging ourselves so horrifically. And we, tailor that onto them to give us a little space from what we're doing to ourselves. But when we clean up our stuff, we have no need to judge. We can just watch it, not dance with it.
They say that the outside world is like a mirror, it's a projection of what we have inside. So that's really corresponds with what you're saying. And is that kind of what you help people to see?
Well, I help people realize that whatever they're experiencing, life is very vibrational. Each one of us carries a vibratory frequency, and that frequency is predicated on our healed parts. You know, the more healthy we are internally, emotionally, psychically, the higher the vibration is. We keep elevating. It's like a spiral going up. If we're not in a higher vibratory frequency, we're going to attract more and more gunk to us. It's like I have learned to look for the magic everywhere because this is a magical universe. All children know that in their pretend play, which is really not pretend, they know it's a magical universe. We have forgotten it. It's a loving universe. We don't know that. And so if you go from those two places, this is a loving universe, which means it wants the best for me at all times. And that it's magical here. And I have the power to create magic because I'm a direct extension of the God force. Then why wouldn't everything be good? It doesn't mean that crap doesn't hit the fan occasionally, because it does. It's life. But it's what you do with it and how you feel about it that makes the difference. If you know that you're loved and supported, it's not going to be as painful. You're going to have the grace to get through it, and you'll have the grace to create something better for yourself. So if you know that premise going forward, there's nothing to be afraid of in living. I used to be afraid of living, not dying. But when you realize this is all here to support us, the place for us to play, we're not here to suffer. That's not what this is about. Then you can look for that and always be calling it in. It's like parking karma, right? Going to the store. I never think about, oh, gee, I hope I get a parking place. I know it's going to be right where I need it to be, the most advantageous space for me, for walking distance, close to the door, all that kind of stuff, ease and, lack of effort. It's always there, because I know it's going to be there. I trust that they've set it up that way for me. When I wake up in the morning, whatever I'm going to be doing, I always project ahead in gratitude for all the goodness that's coming to me. The wonderful clients I get to work with, the wonderful experiences I'll have in the day, the little connections with the person at the checkout, at the market or whatever. It's all those moments of upliftment and loving energy. And I don't dwell on things that aren't working, because me dwelling on them not working makes them bigger. It doesn't make them work. So I let go of that stuff. Whatever it is I need to work out, I know Spirit's going to help me. So I just relax and watch it unfold, and trust that it's all going to be fine. All is well, no matter what it looks like. That's my mantra. All is well, no matter what it looks like. My grandson was diagnosed at 2 with autism. Now, that could have been a big, scary deal. But he was such an amazing little kid. I knew that this was going to be a gift. It had to be a gift. And it was. I mean, it changed everybody in the family for the better. He opened us up in ways we couldn't have been opened without that. I mean, such a teacher and an old soul. He's now 14, and I think he's 5'11" or 6 feet, and he's a straight A student. He taught himself to play the electric guitar. He has his own channel, and he's thriving. Does he have issues? Sure. We all have those, but he's just been a bright light and an amazing teacher. So, we just have to trust in the rightness of life, but help ourselves by trusting that there is magic, trusting that there is good stuff, not looking for the negative, not looking for the scary, but looking always for the light, the grace, the beauty, and being in gratitude all the time.
What do you recommend to people when they're kind of struggling to find that kind of sync with the universe?
Well, in vibrational speak, if you're disconnected from your high self, that's when that kind of stuff can come up. Or when your inner child is having a problem, that can be the cause of it too. There's more than just the adult us. There's an inner child or several inner children that may be stuck in trauma, and they're living out here as opposed to being in sync with us. They haven't integrated into the adult us, and they may be having a meltdown. So having a relationship with that inner kid is a big help. And if you're just having an off day, talk to the universe, pardon me, and say, I want to be in sync with myself. I want to be in connection with my high self. I want to be clear to have all the appropriate information I'm needing to have. Because if you live like I do, which is where your intuition guides you to everything, I don't do anything without my intuition. Whatever I'm going to eat or wear or whatever, it's all through the intuition. It's all through the feeling. Now, that's easier for me maybe than for other people, but it's something to aspire to because it is really the GPS.
How do we know when it's our intuition versus just kind of our inner nagging voice?
Well, the monkey mind is going to be negative and it's going to speak harshly. The high self or your intuition and heart are always going to be loving. They're always going to be supportive. It's a big difference in feeling and sound and vibration. One is a flowing, easy, the other is, rough. The intuition is here to guide us. It's our connection to our high self, which is our connection to spirit. And always following that guidance, you'll never get in trouble. This will lie to you 24/7. Use the brain to do jobs, to do the work you have to do. Don't go to it for information about how you should live and where you should go and all of that. That's not the place.
And you said everybody has access to kind of these gifts that you have, like the clairs. How can they develop them? Is it meditation, or what would you recommend?
Well, I think all of us are different. Um, a lot of mine came through doing writing with Mother Mary. I did that for many, many years, automatic writing. And somebody just kind of showed me how to do it. And it's really as basic as, say you're having an issue or you're having a tough day or you're overwhelmed and you just need some loving support. Okay. So you sit down at your journal and you just, this is how I feel and I don't know what to do about this and I need help with this and blah, 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 blah. And then say, please give me your feedback. one of my mentors, guides, angels, somebody loving and supportive and from the highest realm, come and give me some feedback. And then you sit quietly until you start hearing it. And for me, there are two types where they'll take over your hand and write. They'll scribe through you, or you relay, where you just, what you hear, you just get down on the paper as fast as you can, and you don't have time to read what it is. You're just trying to translate what they're saying onto the page. Then you go back and read it. And it's interesting. It won't be your handwriting. It won't be your cadence of speech. It won't be your type of speaking. And it's usually very loving and very supportive and very helpful. And if we could just get out of our monkey mind and go back to believing in magic like kids do, you can connect with anybody. I remember when I first started doing this, and I thought, I don't know if I believe this or not. And I'm in the IHOP, International House of Pancakes in Los Angeles, and which is a strange place for me to be anyway. But I decided, I had my journal with me. I decided I'm going to see if I can write with Jesus. Well, when Jesus wrote back, it scared the crap out of me, because I thought, now this is a little bigger than I'm willing to handle. Mother Mary was I don't know why I thought she was easier or different, or I didn't deserve Jesus. Jesus was just like too big for me to deal with. But there isn't anybody you can't communicate with. I think that's the point. The veil is so thin. And because it's all one, who do you want to talk to? Your husband, who's passed. You can write with him. They all want to support us, because we're all in this together. So the only constraints are the ones that we put on ourselves.
And we're ultimately all one anyway, so our goals getting accomplished are their goals getting accomplished. So
exactly. It's like, past lives or other lifetimes. I used to think that they were past lifetimes. Now I understand that they're all being lived at the same time. So whatever I'm doing in this lifetime, that's a benefit. It's benefiting all of them. It's also benefiting all of the relatives on back, everybody who came before me. It's helping to heal them.
that's so lovely and comforting. And when you say that all of our past lives are kind of like concurrently happening, how does
Yes.
that play into reincarnation?
I have no idea. I also know that, this concurrent lifetime stuff. My thought is, well, if we're doing that, well, how come I'm not having an awareness like I am right now in another lifetime?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I only having it in this moment? Why am I not interchangeably, experiencing that I'm aware of? And maybe I am in another galaxy. I don't know. There are certain things. Well, let me back up. When I was on the other side, I had the ability to know all. Everybody does when they're there. You can tap into the universal information. But there are certain things you lose the ability to have that in human form. Now, psychically, I can do some of that, and I can ask questions of the universe, with my clients and whatnot. But certain things we're not going to be able to grasp with our human selves. We have to wait till we get to the other side to really understand how it worked, because it's too big a concept for us.
Mm-hmm. What do you think happens when we die? You kind of got a little taste of it, but you didn't get to stay there.
I think it's the most perfect graduation from where we are. Everybody celebrates a baby being born. We need to be celebrating it when our loved ones get to go home, get to go to a place of nothing but love and support and joy. It's a graduation to the next level of us. You know, there's work on the other side. There's also hospital and education for people who need a lot of help remembering who they are as spirits.
Is it possible for us to remember who we are in this place, in this dimension?
I think a lot of people do. I mean, I've had visions of myself in past lifetimes and things like that. Um, I think each one of us has a different opportunity to play in the realms, you know? And I don't believe that we're just here on Earth. I think we go into other realms and galaxies and whatnot. And my desire at almost 78 is to have this be the last one. I feel so complete in so many ways. There's nothing outstanding for me that I need or want to do. And I'm so grateful for the life that I've had. It's been an amazing ride. And I have this feeling that there's work I want to do on the other side with people. Or maybe it's from the other side helping those here.
I read something recently where it said other dimensions are not places or locations, they're frequency or vibration of our consciousness.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
Have you heard anything? Is that kind of what you believe also?
Well, I believe the vibration is different, and our consciousness is our vibratory frequency, you know, whatever we are conscious to awaken, aware or not. I don't know. It's like, is there God in the sky kind of thing? You know, that's such a human construct. Um, I don't know what it all feels like or will be. I only know what I experienced in those fleeting moments with the monks, which was, the most incredible experience of my life. And would I give up my life to go back there or to go forward to that? Yes, in an instant. You know, that old expression about beam me up, Scotty? Yes. Well, I should have a t shirt that says that on it because I am ready to be beamed up. I mean, I was in the hospital last year just for an overnight because I fainted, hit my head, and, had to have stitches in my head. And when I was going through the CAT scan, I thought, is this an opportunity to go? Is this an opening? If it is, let's, it's like there's no fear about it. There's joy and excitement about it because it's so loving and so gentle. There is nothing to be afraid of. Nothing. That's all a human construct of, judgment and punishment. And that's all nonsense. It's all unconditional love. There's a joy on a level we can't experience in human form that you have on the other side. It's yummy.
I love that.
It's
And
yummy.
if my viewers wanted to reach out to you, how can they find you?
I have a website, guidingyourspirit.com. I have an email address, Diane, Dianne, at guidingyourspirit.com. And I would love to communicate with your lovely followers.
If you had one message you wanted to leave with the audience today, one thing to take away from this conversation, what would you want them to know?
I'd want them to know how precious they are, that they have the power to create worlds. Their energy informs other people and can change other people just by being near them because they all have powerful hearts, loving hearts. So take the time to get to know yourself, take the time to appreciate who you are, allow your preciousness to show, allow your magnificence to show. Celebrate yourself and everyone you care about around you. This is a place of joy. We came here to play and be curious and create and experience. Don't be afraid to be who you came in to be, because there's nobody else in the world like you. And we all need you to be you.
I love that. That is so beautiful, so powerful. Thank you so much, Diane. This has been amazing for me and very enlightening. I've enjoyed speaking with you very much.
I have loved being in your energy because you are so precious and you bring so much back into the world that was needed. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near-death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.